声を響かせてあまねくように知らせよ
Which takes us straight into the rigorous world of the TESDA cookery assessment.
Right, because the parallel here is profound. Just as you shouldn't use the violent brute force of a motorized blender on a delicate potato.
You cannot use the brute mental force of rote memorization to survive a high-stakes culinary exam.
The documentation on this assessment highlights a massive psychological trap. Candidates look at the sheer volume of dishes they're expected to know, right?
Oh, it's overwhelming. Soups, sauces, proteins, starches, diverse cuisines.
And the natural, panicked instinct is to try and memorize the textbook word for word. They try to memorize exactly how many grams of onion go into recipe A and how many milliliters of stock go into recipe B.
And that leads to a phenomenon known as cognitive overload. The working memory of the human brain can only hold a few discrete pieces of information at a single time.
So if you are standing at a prep station, an assessor is staring at you.
Watching your every move. The stoves are blazing, the clock is ticking, and you are trying to retrieve an arbitrary number from your memory, say the exact measurement of carrots for dish number 14.
Your cognitive load just maxes out.
It does. You freeze. The brain essentially gets a spinning loading wheel.
And assessors are not looking for someone who can recite a textbook.
Not at all. They are fully aware that in a real functioning kitchen, exact recipes go out the window almost instantly.
Because things go wrong.
Always. An ingredient doesn't get delivered, a batch of vegetables is slightly sweeter or more bitter than usual, or a piece of meat is cut thicker than standard.
So a cook who relies purely on memorized text cannot adapt to those physical realities.
They crash. Assessors are looking for a cook who understands the underlying systems and mechanisms of cooking. Memorization is fragile, but understanding systems is robust.
The manuals explain this beautifully by forcing candidates to categorize the culinary world not by individual recipes, but by core methods.
Yes, you don't look at 50 random dishes, you look at the matrix beneath them.
A perfect example of this is the approach to sauces. The text explicitly tells candidates, like, do not try to memorize 20 different sauce recipes.
Right, instead you master the 5 classical mother sauces.
Which traces back to Auguste Escoffier, right?
Yes, Escoffier and the formalization of the French brigade system in the early 20th century. Escoffier realized that a kitchen couldn't function if every single sauce was built from scratch, using a unique, separate process.
It would be total chaos.
Exactly, so he architecturalized it. He codified the 5 foundational pillars of Western cuisine.
Bechamel, fileté, espagnole, tomato, and hollandaise.
Those are the ones.
It is exactly like learning the primary colors. If you are a painter, you don't memorize the chemical formula for every single shade of purple, green, or orange in existence.
That would be impossible.
Right. You learn red, blue, and yellow, and you learn the rules of mixing them. The culinary guide points out that if you know how to make a basic velouté, which is fundamentally just a light stock thickened with a pale roux,
then you don't need a separate recipe for a mushroom cream sauce or a white wine herb sauce or a supreme sauce.
because those are just derivative sauces, or what they call small sauces.
Exactly. If an assessor asks for a mushroom cream sauce, the systemic cook doesn't panic trying to remember a new recipe.
What do?
They just think, okay, velouté system, I build my roux, I add my chicken stock. Now how do I pivot?
Ah, the pivot.
Right. I saute mushrooms, add them in, and finish with heavy cream. The foundation does 80% of the work for you.
So you shift the massive cognitive load away from arbitrary lists of ingredients and move it toward understanding a single, repeatable physical technique.
Yes, that's the secret.
And this systemic thinking applies heavily to the application of heat as well. The guides emphasize that you must fundamentally understand the physics separating moist heat cooking from dry heat cooking.
Because cooking is, at its core, the controlled transfer of thermal energy into organic matter. How that energy is transferred changes everything.
Okay, break that down for us.
Sure. Dry heat methods like roasting, sautéing, or grilling rely on air or fat to transfer heat. This triggers the Maillard reaction, that beautiful browning of proteins and sugars.
That's where the flavor is.
Exactly. But moist heat methods like poaching or boiling rely on water or steam. This penetrates deeply, but caps the temperature at the boiling point, which prevents browning, but it excels at breaking down tough fibers.
So let's look at braising, which is a combination method and an absolute staple of these assessments.
Oh, they love testing braising.
If the exam menu calls for a specific braised beef dish, the memorizer tries to recall the 20 steps for that exact dish.
But the systemic cook already knows the universal algorithm for a braise, regardless of what animal the meat came from.
Because the thermodynamics of braising are universal. You are dealing with tough cuts of meat that are heavily exercised, like a shoulder or a chuck.
Right. These cuts are loaded with a connective tissue called collagen. If you apply high dry heat to collagen, it tightens up and becomes rubbery and impenetrable.
It's like chewing on a tire.
Yes. So to make it edible, you have to melt that collagen down into gelatin, and that only happens through prolonged exposure to moisture at a low, steady temperature.
Usually around 160 to 180 degrees Fahrenheit.
Exactly.
So the algorithm is always the same.
Yeah.
Step 1, you sear the meat over high, dry heat.
And this isn't to seal in the juices, which, by the way, is a total myth.
Wait, really? Sealing in juices is a myth.
Complete myth. Searing is purely to trigger the Maillard reaction and build complex, savory flavor compounds on the exterior of the meat.
Okay, good to know. So step 2, you remove the meat and saute your aromatics, usually a mirepoix, in that rendered fat.
Right.
Step 3, you deglaze the pan. You pour in a liquid like wine or stock to violently boil and lift all those browned caramelized proteins, the fond, off the bottom of the pan.
The fond is essential.
And finally, step 4, you return the meat, add enough stock to partially submerge it, cover it, and drop the heat to a gentle simmer for hours.
Sear, saute, deglaze, simmer. If you have that sequence internalized, the assessor can throw anything at you.
Literally anything.
Yeah, they can ask you to braise beef short ribs, pork shoulder, lamb shanks, or even a tough vegetable like fennel or cabbage. The ingredient changes, but the physical algorithm remains perfectly static.
You are not recalling a recipe, you are executing a thermodynamic process.
That is the perfect way to phrase it.
But knowing the high-level theory of collagen breakdown is completely useless if your physical workspace is in shambles.
Oh, absolutely.
You cannot execute a pristine braise if your cutting board is covered in raw chicken juice and onion peels.
Gross, but true.
Which brings us to what I call the holy trinity of the professional station.
Okay, I like that. What is it?
Mise en place, cuts, and ratios.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
This is where the cerebral theory meets intense physical discipline. The kitchen is a manufacturing environment. If you cannot manage your physical space, your mental knowledge is just irrelevant.
And in the TESDA assessment, the evaluators place a staggering amount of weight on the concept of mise en place, which literally translates to everything in its place. The documentation details the incredibly strict timeline of the exam.
Very strict.
When the clock starts, the first 5 minutes are entirely dedicated to spatial organization. You are not touching food, you are setting the stage.
You are wiping down your entire stainless steel station with a sanitizing solution.
And there's a specific safety detail I find absolutely fascinating. Securing your cutting board.
Yes.
You don't just toss it on the counter. You lay down a damp paper towel or a damp kitchen cloth, and you place the board firmly on top of it.
It's vital. It creates a high-friction gasket between the slippery plastic or wood of the board and the slick stainless steel of the prep table.
Because a sliding cutting board is a nightmare.
A cutting board that slips even half an inch while you are applying downward force with a razor-sharp chef's knife is a catastrophic laceration waiting to happen.
Yikes.
Yeah, it is a fundamental safety protocol. But from the assessor's perspective, it also signals psychological control.
It tells them that you respect the danger of the environment and that you are methodical.
Exactly. You are arranging your knives, your peeler, your tasting spoons, and your waste receptacles before you even look at an ingredient.
And once you do start handling ingredients, the workflow dictated by food safety protocols is incredibly rigid. You prep strictly by category based on biological hazard levels.
Yes.
You always unequivocally wash and cut your vegetables, fruits, and herbs before you bring any raw meat, poultry, or seafood anywhere near your cutting board.
We have to view this through the lens of microbiology and public health.
Right.
Raw poultry, for instance, frequently carries pathogens like Salmonella or Campylobacter. If you process a chicken breast on your board and then attempt to clean the board to chop lettuce for a salad,
You're taking a massive risk.
you are relying entirely on the perfection of your sanitation technique in a high-stress, fast-paced environment. There is always a margin of human error.
You might miss a microscopic groove in the board.
And if you do, the pathogen transfers to the lettuce is served raw, and the diner gets violently ill.
But if you reverse the order, if you cut the salad greens first, put them safely away, and then cut the raw chicken last, that margin of error vanishes completely.
B is the chicken is going into a hot pan to be cooked to an internal temperature of 165 degrees, which eradicates the pathogens anyway.
It is a completely foolproof systemic workflow that makes cross-contamination mathematically impossible.
It's elegant.
And as you are executing this pristine prep sequence, you aren't just leaving piles of chopped vegetables on your board.
No.
You are portioning those ingredients into small individual bowls called ramekins. And you arrange those ramekins on your station in the exact chronological order that they will hit the hot pan.
This is the physical manifestation of project management. Think about the thermal reality of sautéing. You have a pan over high heat. Your fat is shimmering. It's right on the edge of its smoke point.
Okay, I'm visualizing it.
You drop in your diced onions. They start sweating and browning rapidly. If at that exact moment you realize you haven't minced your garlic or chopped your parsley, you have to abandon the pan.
To grab your knife and frantically start chopping.
Right, and in the 30 seconds it takes you to mince the garlic, the onions in the pan have scorched, turned black, and the entire flavor base of your dish is ruined.
The heat does not pause while you catch up.
Precisely. Having every single component chopped, measured, and staged in ramekins prevents that cascade of failure. You can stand at the stove and simply execute, dropping ingredients into the pan with perfect timing, completely uninterrupted.
The manuals also highlight a seemingly mundane detail that is actually a massive indicator of professionalism: the designated waste bowl.
Oh, I love the waste bowl.
You keep a specific bowl right on your cutting board, strictly for scraps, onion peels, carrot tops, herb stems. It sounds trivial, but it shows the assessor an extreme level of kinetic organization.
It's about time motion efficiency. If you peel a carrot and then turn around and take 3 steps to toss the peels into a main garbage bin, you are wasting physical energy and time.
Just walking back and forth.
Exactly. You multiply those 3 steps by 50 different prep tasks, and you have wasted significant minutes of your exam.
Not to mention the mess.
Right. Walking across the kitchen with handfuls of wet peels increases the likelihood of dropping organic matter on the floor, creating a slip hazard. A tabletop waste bowl contains all of that chaos to a 1 square foot area.
Now, we need to talk about what is arguably the most terrifying and technically demanding aspect of the physical prep phase.
Knife skills.
Yes, the documentation clearly states that your knife skills are your calling card. They are the immediate visual proof of your competence. And the manuals list out the exact required geometrical dimensions for standard vegetable cuts.
The geometry in classical cuisine is absolutely non-negotiable.
We are talking about precision engineering with root vegetables. First is the julienne, which is essentially a matchstick cut measuring exactly 2 millimeters by 2 millimeters by 4 centimeters in length.
So tiny.
Then you have the batana, the classic French fry shape, measuring 6 millimeters by 6 millimeters by 5 to 6 centimeters long.
Right.
If you take those julienne matchsticks and cut them horizontally, you derive the brunoise, which are tiny, perfect cubes measuring exactly 2 millimeters on all sides.
Very difficult to do perfectly.
And finally, the paysan cut, which are flat, tile-like squares measuring 12 millimeters by 12 millimeters, but only 3 millimeters thick.
Executing these cuts requires immense physical focus and knife control. You're taking a naturally irregular cylindrical object like a carrot or a potato.
And you're squaring it off to create flat surfaces.
Exactly, and then manufacturing perfectly uniform architectural shapes out of it.
Let's address the reality of this environment for a second, though. Is an assessor seriously going to stand over my cutting board with a physical ruler to check if my carrot cube is 2 millimeters instead of 3 millimeters? That sounds psychotic.
The assessment manuals confirm that yes, assessors frequently use actual pocket rulers or specialized culinary calipers to measure the cuts.
You're kidding. Calipers.
Yes. It feels incredibly pedantic, I know, but it is deeply rooted in the laws of thermodynamics.
Wait, how does a ruler relate to thermodynamics?
It's all about heat transfer. When you drop vegetables into a hot environment, whether it's boiling water, hot oil, or an oven, thermal energy penetrates the exterior of the vegetable and travels toward the center.
Okay.
The speed at which the center reaches the target temperature is dictated entirely by the thickness of the object.
Oh, I see where this is going.
If your knife skills are sloppy, and you have a pan full of carrots where some pieces are 2 millimeters thick and others are 6 millimeters thick, you have created a thermodynamic nightmare.
Because they will cook at wildly different rates.
Exactly.
からの授か